Hello, welcome back to our section 8. And in this section, we're going to be looking at advanced Django, ORM, and real-time features. So we're going to look at some advanced features of Django in our query set. So let's get right into it. Now, so far we've fetched basic data. We've looked at how to fetch your normal data from your fields and all of that. But there exist cases where, for instance, in the post model we have, let's say each post has a comment and you need to store it on a different table, which is a comment table, right? That's a comment model. So when you create this comment model, each comment will be attached to a user and each comment will be attached to a post, right? So this being the case, how about when we want to calculate fields like, let's say, the total comments in each post? How are we going to go about it? Like counting comments per post or showing average rating in, let's say, an e-store or situations like that. That is what we're going to have to handle in this advanced querying section. So we are going to implement advanced database querying techniques with annotations, and we're going to do aggregations and conditional expressions. We're going to also treat real-time features with Django channels. And why this matter, you could ask? This advanced technique will level up your Django applications, enabling complex data manipulations and interactive real-time experience. Now, annotations help add calculated fields directly to your database query. For instance, in our code, okay, while aggregations perform complex calculations across your entire data set. Now, we'll look at the key differences between these two. And then when we talk about real-time features, we're talking about an interactive WebSocket connections to your app. We'll get to that. Now, the power of annotation. Think of annotation as adding a comment count to each post while fetching them, all in a single efficient query. Annotations in Django allow you to add computed fields directly to your database queries. Why this is powerful is because it's performed at the database level. It reduces the need for additional queries and makes your code cleaner and more efficient. Now, without annotation, we tend to do, for us to be able to say, get the number of comments on a post, or let's say the number of likes on a social media post, we have to use a loop. And this is not efficient. We have to say count all, and this increases the number of queries on the database, which is not performance effective. But with annotations, we make a single efficient query that gets all that we need. Let's see this in practical. So let's get to our code. We're going to create an additional model. We're going to create a comment model. And then this comment, we're going to have fields like post, then the content, which is the comment, then the creator that, and then the author who. Then we're going to have the title of the post returned as comment, returned as the string. So this becomes the comment table for this post, pointing to each user. Let's have this as user instead. Now, I would also want that we add a field to our foreign key that we call related name. Now, related name helps customize the field that is added. For instance, in this post, behind the scenes, Django adds a field called comments to this post model, and this field called comments is pointed to another table, which are the list of all comments on the particular post. So that's why we add the related name, so that we have it named according to what particularly we want. Now, having added this comment, the next thing, remember, after making changes to your models.py, you're to make your migrations, then after making your migrations, you're to migrate, to commit these instructions to your database schema. Having done that, we have already included comments. But imagine a scenario where we want to know how many comments exist within each post on our database. Now, when you do such thing, usually you would think of having a loop. Let's say you count the total number of comments per post, but this, in as much as it works, it is terribly not effective. So we need, remember, what currently in the advanced phase, where we talk about some very vital components or things you should know to become an effective Django programmer. So one of those is what we've talked about, to be annotation. So what annotation does is that it adds an extra field. Let's say on this post, for instance, it adds an extra field to your database table, such that each query, let's say in this example that we want to count the total number of comments that exist in each post table or object. So each of these objects post annotate adds a field depending on what we wish to name it. Let's say comment count. It adds a field, comment count, behind the scenes, and then take the count of all the comments related to that post. So this is very effective because it happens and at the database level, and when there is a query, there is no additional queries. It's just one single query, and then it gets it in an efficient way. So how do we get to implement this annotate? Let's get to our post list create view. This query set, we would have to add it here, but I prefer we customize the query set function. So how do we do that? You literally just define get query set. Then we're going to, remember we had select related author. Then well, we had .or, right. So we're going to include dot annotate. So annotate in Django, it takes the number of count, it takes or performs an operation and adds a field to each object in the query set. Now let's give it what field name did we have in our example here? Okay, let's just go with num counts. So with num counts, we use count. You call this count. It's a DB class of a function of Django. So it counts comments. Remember, this comment here is the foreign key from comments. So this should match. Now, when you do this, it adds a field num comments to your response of the post list. So to see this, we will literally need to have comments or num count comments included in our response. So we would want to have num comments integer field and make it read only. So let's, the app refreshes.